Welcome, all my fellow Washington brethren and sistren. I am your man and resident Washington football fan, Lou. Thank you for joining me here on the Washington Football Report. So we've got big news. We've been waiting on this. There were reports coming out over the weekend that this was imminent. We drew and connected the dots from about a month and a half ago when Marty Hurney was fired as Carolina Panthers GM, in enough time for him to get his bearings, and everyone talked about this situation. Ron Rivera even was tight-lipped and got uncomfortable when pressed about Marty Hurney, but we all saw the writing on the wall. We knew what was to come. They had this little, what felt like a token GM search where they're, talking to various guys around the league that are quote unquote respected, only so they could come back around to Marty Hurney. And they had to do their due diligence, but honestly, I think they were doing what they had to do to satisfy the Rooney Rule and make it look as if they were considering other options, when all along this is the guy Ron Rivera wanted in Marty Hurney to bring in as his next general manager. And so this is the first time we've had a general manager in Washington since Scott McLuhan was here back in 2015 and 16, or 14 and 15. So it's been a while since we've actually had someone with the title of general manager. Remember, Bruce Allen was the de facto general manager, but he was team president. And so when Ron got here and they fired when they fired Bruce Allen, they never rehired another GM. And so this is the first time we've had a GM. And what I want you to do is kind of get to know Marty Hurney. So I'm going to give you all the information that was given to me. And so when you talk to Panthers fans, and I've talked to quite a few of them because I knew this was coming. So I went out, reached out to a few guys, got some feedback. And so I'm going to give you the charges that were levied against Marty Hurney. And look, first things first, I don't know what this means for Kyle Smith. Let's be honest. If he's gone, he's gone. What are we going to do? All right. Many guys have come into this building. Many guys have left this building and have gone on to be very successful. And we're watching it again. Someone sent me a message. I hadn't even thought about this, but makes perfectly good sense. And it would happen here, wouldn't it? That if Green Bay Packers head coach Matt LaFleur is able to advance to the Super Bowl, that would make it 3 straight years that an ex-Washington football team assistant coach has left here and made it to the Super Bowl in the NFC. Back in 18, it was Sean McVay. Back in 19, it was Kyle Shanahan. And in 2020, if, in fact, the Packers do advance to the Super Bowl, Matt LaFleur would make it 3 straight assistant coaches from this football team and organization that have gone on to make it to the Super Bowl. It is what it is, okay? You can't change the past. All we can do, as Ron has urged us to do, is look forward to the future. Live in the present, look forward to the future, and give them a chance to fix what has been broken for so long in Washington. Well, we're going to give him that chance. Now, the one thing I can say is this hire of Marty Hurney is solely on Ron Rivera. We talked about this coach-centric approach. He's getting it. He's getting the opportunity to do what he wants to do, to mold this thing in the way that he wants it to look. And a lot of people are saying, oh, he's just turning it into Carolina. Well, we'll see what happens, okay? Maybe he didn't have as much control as he would have liked in Carolina. Maybe he saw some things going in the right direction that management didn't agree with, and hence changes were made that he didn't think needed to be made, and he wants to prove that they had the right guys in Carolina and they just needed to be able to be allowed to do what it is they thought they should be able to do. I don't know. We'll find out. Everybody keeps talking about what happened in Carolina and why we shouldn't do it here. Well, we'll see. We'll see what happens. All I know is they went to a Super Bowl in Carolina. Now, Hurney wasn't a part of that, but a lot of the players that he drafted helped get them to the Super Bowl. That said, let's talk about Marty Hurney. Let's talk about the hire. What we know, what charges have been levied against him, and why people don't think he's a great GM. All right, now we'll talk about the positives and the negatives. Let's start with the negatives, get them out of the way right now. Let's eat our vegetables, and then we'll finish up with dessert. So with Marty Hurney, Here's what I'm hearing from Panthers fans. Problem number one, he makes excellent first-round picks. We'll talk about that in a second. That's one of the positives. However, after you get past the luster and the shine of the first round, he's not very good thereafter. And you can go look at his draft history. I went and took a look at it because I knew this was imminent. So I did my homework last night. He was the GM in Carolina from 2002 to 2012. He was then fired after the 2012 season. In comes Dave Gettleman, who takes over from 2013 to 2017. Gettleman is out after 17. In comes Marty Hurney again in 2018, and he's drafted in 18, 19, and 20 in Carolina again. So when you look at that draft history, what you will find is a sparkling history of first-round picks. And I'll go through those when we get to his positives. But after you get past the first round, you won't find a lot of guys that have massive impacts in this league in other portions of the draft, second, third, fourth, fifth, sixth, seventh. Every now and again, he'll hit on a guy like a Thomas Davis, all right, that they didn't get in the first round. Or he'll hit on a guy that they may have gotten in the second or in the fourth or fifth. There are a couple of other guys, in particular, I think it's the 2013 draft, maybe the 2015 draft. It's the 2013 draft that I think he had some success with some guys in the first, second, and third round. But outside of that, there's not a lot of success. And I remember these guys from the 2002, 3, 4, 5 draft. I remember I was a heavy Madden player in those days. And I remember those guys not really living up to the billing. So not a lot of success after the first round. That's the first charge levied against him. The second major charge, and this was one that really irked a lot of Panthers fans, is that he mangled the cap. This is a guy that just handed out lofty contract after lofty contract to veteran players, and it really put them in a tough spot. And when Gettleman took over, there was a lot of dead cap space, a lot of dead cap money with guys that they were trying to move on from that they couldn't get rid of. They couldn't shed the dead cap. Even though a guy wasn't there, they were still paying for a contract that Marty Hurney handed out. And so a lot of Panthers fans were furious because he left them in a very, very bad financial state when his term in Carolina was up. And it took Gettleman a few years to get them out of salary cap hell because of the damage done by Marty Hurney. There's no disputing that. That's factual. However, Ron already said, we got a guy for that here. He's not handling the cap. Rob Rogers, a guy that Ron trusted and brought with him from Carolina here, who is the new de facto Schaefer. Remember, we used to have Schaefer making the numbers dance. We used to always say, hey, Schaefer's going to make the numbers dance. We don't worry about contracts. He'll make it fit under the cap. Well, he's got a guy here in Rob Rogers that is in the similar position. He's handling all the deals, money-wise, contractually. So Hurney's not going to be worrying about that aspect of things. So we don't have to worry about him handing out these lucrative deals that aren't favorable 3-4 years down the road, that you don't have an exit ramp to get out of that's going to put you in a compromising position if that guy isn't performing up to standards and you want to move on in the third year of a 5-year deal. We're not going to be in that position, at least not because of Marty Hurney, because there's a guy doing that here already in Rob Rogers. So we don't have to worry about Hurney and his absorbent deals. So that was one of the charges. That's not going to be a problem here. Rivera's already said, look, I know that Marty had some issues with that. That's why I got another guy. But he likes Marty's eye for talent. I don't necessarily agree wholeheartedly, but we'll see. I'm not going to not, because again, I used to always say when the Panthers were good, I said, they're winning with all of Marty's stuff. And it was true. When you look at the nucleus of the Panthers and what they were, all of the guys that were contributing were all draft picks of Marty Hurney. Now, it's easy to say that. When they made that run in 2015, it's easy to say that they're all of Marty's picks. Guess what? Marty was there for over a decade. It should be most of his stuff contributing. Okay? But when you look, it was Cam. It was Luke Kuechly. It was, it was Thomas Davis. And it was a bunch of guys. That was the nucleus right there. They added Shaq Thompson, and that was a Dave Gettleman pick, and some of the guys on the defensive line, also, Dave Gettleman selections. But some of those guys on the defensive line were Marty Hurney selections. So at the end of the day, when you look at what this means for Washington, let's go to his positives. And really, there's two things that stick out. One is his familiarity with Ron Rivera. There's a level of comfort and trust there that I don't think existed with Kyle Smith. And again, we don't know what this means for Kyle Smith. He could still be here in the exact role that he's in right now. He could still have massive input and say in what goes on. But at the end of the day, this move has been made. Marty Hurney is the GM. We'll see what happens. Second thing is he's got an outstanding eye for first-round talent. Elite stuff, he has no problems identifying. It's easy to get a first-round pick wrong, but it's also easy to get a first-round pick right. Now, he's had some slam dunk first-round picks, but I don't really like to give credit to people for doing the things that they're supposed to do. What we've seen in this organization is that we haven't had slam dunk first-round picks. That's a problem. That's a massive problem. All right. We've had more success in the third and fourth and fifth round than we have in the first round. That's part of the reason the only first-round pick still on this roster since like 2012 is Brandon Sheriff. That's an issue. Okay. Your first-round picks should be just as good and have the kind of sticking power as your second and third and fourth round picks, but we don't have that kind of success here. So that needs to change, and a guy that we're looking to help us change that. Now, over the last 3 or 4 years, let's call it 4 years, we've had first round picks stick. I'm talking about the guys that were here, that wouldn't be here if they weren't still on their rookie contract. That's what I'm talking about. The Josh Doxsons, whose rookie contract would have expired by now. Those are the guys I'm talking about. Robert Griffin III. These are guys that should still be on your roster helping you win right now. Their contracts and their age isn't to where they should be off somewhere else or out of the league by now. But that's what we've done in the first round. Now, the last, 4 first rounds, starting with Allen in 2016 and then Deron Payne or Allen in 17, Deron Payne in 18, Montez Sweat in 19. In one of those first round picks in that draft, Dwayne Haskins, not here anymore. That's what I'm talking about. That has to stop. And then, of course, 2020 Chase Young. Outside of that window, and none of those guys for rookie deals have expired. That's why they're still here. We don't have any first round picks. When you look around the league, your first round pick from 2015 should still be on your team right now if he's very good. If you hit a slam dunk, those guys should be around for 8, 9, 10, 12 years. Kerrigan would have been one of those guys that would have qualified. He's gone. He's going to be gone this offseason, so he doesn't count anymore. He was the last of a dying breed on this football team of early round draft picks that were successful with this organization. That's why we held on to Kerrigan so damn long and so tight, because we didn't have any guys that looked like that. Trent Williams was another one of those guys. Last of a dying breed in Washington. Well, he's gone and now Kerrigan's gone. So now your longest tenured Washington football team member is Morgan Moses. He's not a first round pick. And the next guy up is Brandon Sheriff. That's where we are in our process. So we're looking to change things, and you got to hit starting with those first round picks. Hurney has done that at a high clip. Now, I can't speak for the 2nd through the 7th. Maybe having a guy like Kyle Smith around will help. I don't know. We'll see. But a lot of those guys have not panned out in the league. I'm just telling you. He had a hit rate of around like 19%. The draft average, what you're looking for in terms of having rounds 1 through 7 hit, guys with sticking power that stay in the league 5, 6, 7 years, that you decide to re-up after their rookie contract is done, The hit rate is around 30%. That's what you're aiming for. You'd like to be higher, obviously, but the baseline is 30%. If you can't hit in the draft at a 30% clip, you're not doing your job very well. And Marty Hurney, when he was fired in Carolina, and let's talk about the first run, not the second run, because of course those guys, 18, 19, and 20, those guys are still in the league. Even if they stink, they're probably still around. You don't get rid of guys that are first or second round picks if they're not good after 2 or 3 years. You give them an opportunity. So let's not count the last bit of, and I like some of the things he's done in those last few drafts. But let's just assume, let's just go with the 2002 to 2013. He was hitting at like a 19% clip in terms of his draft picks having staying power in the league. That's not good. It's not good. So I'm hoping that things have changed and his role here won't be as significant. He's got the title, but let's hope that there's a lot more input being put in. And one thing I can say about Hurney, he's been given a lot of credit for, is that he's a guy that does a really good job at team building, roster building, finding talented guys in free agency, bringing them in and having them fit in what culture is being built. And we'll see if he's able to do that here. We've already started something. We've got the building blocks. We've got the foundation. Let's see if he can add in free agency. I can tell you right now, with this signing and this hiring here of Marty Hurney, I can guarantee you we're going after Curtis Samuel in free agency. I can all but guarantee it now. It's not something I'm very fond of if that's who they think is going to make a hell of a number 2 wide receiver on this football team. I'm not interested, but if you tell me, hey, I like Curtis Samuel and we think we can get another guy, cool, but that's not what's going to happen. We got so many young receivers on this football team in AGG and Kelvin Harmon, and you saw all the young guys this year that they're going to continue to try to bring along, Steven Sims Jr. and Isaiah Wright and all of these young guys that they have on this team right now. They're going to continue to try to build them. And Cam Sims, if they re-sign him, which I feel like that's going to happen, but we'll see what happens. Curtis Samuel, to me, is a gadget guy that can do some things, but to me, he's injury prone. Number one, he's high maintenance from a health standpoint. He's one of those guys that's always in the shop. You know, he's a very fancy automobile that has specific parts that you've got to always go in the shop and do maintenance on. And those guys I don't want around. Plus, I think he's a guy that isn't really great at any one thing. He's just good at a bunch of things. Yep, jet sweep. Yep, hurt you there. Catch a little wide receiver screen. Maybe catch a little slant here and there. You can line him up in the backfield. Yeah, he can get you deep vertically, but he's not great at any one thing. But he can take the top off of a defense. He can run. That's for damn sure. And we could always use more speed. But that's Marty Hurney in a nutshell. Again, what does this mean for Kyle Smith? I can't tell you. I don't know. We'll find out. We'll see how this process continues to play itself out. We'll see if anyone calls Kyle Smith and offers him an assistant GM job or, you know, something that is a title above where he is, and he decides to bolt because he feels like this has lessened his impact here in the organization. Or we'll see if he continues to work closely with the organization, with Ron Rivera, now with Marty Hurney, and if he still has some input in decision-making process in regards to this roster. We don't know what's going to come of Kyle Smith. All we know is that Ron Rivera has the power in Washington that was stated when he got the job, and we're seeing him flex his muscles yet again, going and getting one of his old cronies once again, this time in ex-Panthers GM Marty Hurney, and now making him the new GM here in Washington. He's got the title. You know what charges have been levied against him. He's not going to be controlling the cap here, so that's not something you need to be concerned with. Let's see what he does, and let's judge him on the picks that are made. And it may be a joint decision. Remember, we used to always get, this is a Redskins decision when they would pick someone, i.e., translation, it was Bruce Allen just making sure that he deflected and said that it was everybody's decision. No, this isn't a Kyle Smith decision. This isn't a Ron Rivera decision, despite what they may tell us. You gave Marty Hurney the title of GM. We're going to judge him on the draft picks that are made. If they're not good, we want him gone. Simple as that. This is on Ron Rivera. He hired this guy. So if it doesn't work, it's on Ron Rivera. If Kyle Smith leaves and becomes Schneider, the GM for the Seahawks, he was here in Washington once upon a time, and then goes on to be one of the best GMs in the league. If that happens again here with Kyle Smith, we have Ron Rivera to blame. But we're not going down that road. Let's judge him based on what he does here, not on what he did. Rivera has asked us to not talk about the past, even though we know the past can be a predictor of the future. Let's judge him on what he does here. Let's do that. So I'm going to give him an opportunity. We're going to see what he does. We're going to start with this draft. And it's kind of hard to really put this draft in his lap because he wasn't doing the work all year round here, but he was doing some work all year round, or had people doing the work all year round in Carolina. So you would think that he has some working knowledge of what's going on with the draft this year. So let's see what happens. I'm starting with this year's draft. He's here in January. He's got plenty of time to get acclimated as to what we need, get up to speed on what should be done. He's got free agency in March. We're going to start there, and then we're going to go to the draft in April, and we're going to see what he does for this football team. And the clock starts then, in March, okay? The clock starts in March. We know what we need as fans. Let's see how fast he's able to get up to speed and figure out what we need in March, and then again in April. Let's see how he continues to build this roster that we think is getting dangerously close to being something formidable in the NFC. He's on the clock. And with this decision, unfortunately, so is Ron. You mess this one up, you're going to mess up this roster. You mess up this roster, you mess up this team, you mess up this team, we got a problem. So that's going to do it for me, your man, Louie T. I thank you guys for joining me. Remember, I'm a Washington fan, etched in burgundy and gold. My Washington spirit will never die. Washington spirit will never fold until we meet again. Hail to our beloved Washington football team. Remember, if you haven't already done so, please make sure you subscribe to the Louie T Network for more great content. Turn on that notification bell so you don't miss a thing. We'll be live this Thursday to talk about this and any other topics regarding this Washington football team. And so I look forward to chopping it up with you guys on the Washington Football Report live Thursday night, 8:30 p. Until then, I'm your man, Louie T. Thank you for joining me. I'll see you guys next time. Make sure you hit that like button if you haven't already done so on the way out. See you guys next time. Have a good one.